to the real world. So we have the magician himself here, Mr. Roger Brown. So we have two presentations in this session, both of them focused on big events. Like we had the Taylor Swift concert not long ago, and everybody's gearing up for the World Cup. And the question is, what are the lessons learned and what is the plan ahead? So we'll first hear from the City of Toronto, and then we'll hear after that from Metrolinx. So from the City of Toronto, we have Roger Brown, the Director of Traffic Management Section in the Transportation Services Department at the City of Toronto. Roger is the Director of the Traffic Management Section, and he, under his management, he oversees 2,400 signalized intersections in terms of planning, design, construction, maintenance, and operation. He also oversees the City of Toronto Rescue Traffic Operations Center, all traffic safety and efficiency related investigations, construction and work zones coordination, and the new program about the new traffic wardens or agents and school crossing guard programs. Anything traffic, pretty much. These respective units within his section actively support both the City of Toronto Vision Zero Road Safety Plan and the new MOVE TO Congestion Management Plan. Prior to him being the director, Roger was the manager of the traffic safety unit that introduced Vision Zero at the City of Toronto. He managed the city's traffic data collection, red light camera programs, and he's a professional engineer with 25 years of varying experience in the field of transportation engineering at the city, at MTO, and as a consultant. And in his spare time, I'm not sure when exactly, he also teaches. So he has taught transportation engineering as part-time instructor at McMaster University. And for a number of years has been an instructor at the Ontario Traffic Council Technical Traffic Operations course. Should I say that you were my student too? Or?
Yeah, that's important.
All right, thank you very much. Please join me in welcoming Roger Brown.
As Bahar mentioned, my name is Roger Brown, and actually, well, a couple of things. Number one, I want to thank Bahar, Amr, Kareem, everybody, just for inviting me here to speak to you today, specifically about this here, this particular initiative that I can't believe it's been a year since, Taylor Swift was in Toronto. And I have to admit, in my 25 years plus of being a traffic engineer, I've worked on a lot of different projects and, municipal designs, highway designs, ITS design, all sorts of different elements like that. But somehow this particular one from last year really kind of stands out for me for a number of reasons. You could say the collaborative efforts of everybody and the fact that I do feel it was a success. I mean, that's one of the hard things about being in the traffic engineering world is when you do a good job, nobody talks about it. The conversation's only when things are bad and negative. This one, though, in particular, if I can preface with just a couple of details. Number one, the Taylor Swift concerts that were happening before Toronto led to an incredible amount of congestion in those other cities. So that's the first kind of red flag. And the City of Toronto, well, it's kind of known for congestion. As Bahar, he kind of introduced me as the magician. Yeah, because the expectation of council of me is that somehow I can magically make cars disappear. So obviously that's one of the big concerns. The second thing is the fact that you have all these recent events where you have people coming to the city, performers, whatever, saying that, oh my gosh, the congestion was so bad I had to walk to the concert. Oh, heaven forbid, kind of thing. And all that was all precursor and leading up to this, where there was a general fear and anxiety that with Taylor Swift coming to the city, if congestion was so bad that she had to walk to the stadium, this would be a huge international story. Like we would be on the cover of CNN talking about how horrible congestion is in Toronto, and oh my God, even Queen Taylor Swift had to walk to the event. So there was a lot riding on this. This is one of those you cannot fail type missions. So I'm going to give you the whole kind of story background and all this stuff. And I kind of laid it out in very much a story format about, first off, the anticipation of her coming, the planning, the wayfinding. I have to mention the various ambassadors. There was the meeting. Yes, the meeting. And I'll get to that in details in my slides. Taylor Swift versus Toronto's traffic. And then the show itself, just some fun details and some crazy stories that happen that can only happen when you're managing traffic around something like this. And then, as Bahar mentioned, I'm going to talk about lessons learned and on to FIFA, because that's the one key thing is the Taylor Swift experience is something where it's kind of like the gift that just keeps on giving. We've learned so many lessons from that major event that now are moving into, well, number one, we used it for the Rogers Stadium. And likewise, we used it around the Blue Jays playoffs in terms of managing traffic around that. So we keep testing, trying, evolving, and modifying our traffic management strategy based on all these experiences that all stem from this kind of major effort around the Taylor Swift concert series. So our story begins with the anticipation. Now, as I mentioned beforehand, other jurisdictions experienced a lot of congestion when Taylor Swift came to town. Well, I know it's a little bit hard to read here, but this is streetlight data that basically shows the hours of delay, the percentage increase in terms of hours delay experienced by each of these jurisdictions as a result of Taylor Swift. The average is the yellow in the middle there, a 277% increase in terms of vehicular delay as a result of the Taylor Swift concert landing on a particular city. And in particular in Boston, the Gillette Stadium, they experienced the big bar here you see on the end here, 1,270% increase in terms of traffic delay. So you can imagine with data like that coming out. Last two concerts in her entire series. So we're seeing all this and we're getting pretty nervous. There's, some of the information is coming back from some of the earlier players. The concert that took place in Arizona. Type games and everything. So in terms of attendance, we're not talking 44,000 Rogers. I mean, that's an intimate experience is what Taylor called it. You're talking 120,000 people in and out of that stadium there. And it was absolute pandemonium at the end. The banning wasn't as bad because people come to different stages, but it was when everybody left that, as you can see this newspaper clipping here, it was an absolute it was madness, Rideshare drivers and concert goers tell us the concert was amazing, but what happened after quickly became a nightmare. So again, that was one of the first concerts, and we're seeing and hearing all this stuff. And then there was the terrorist attack.
This morning, Taylor Swift breaking her silence 2 weeks after that planned terror plot targeting her massive tour was foiled, forcing the cancellation of 3 shows in Vienna, Austria. Swift posting on social media, having our Vienna shows canceled was devastating. The reason for the cancellations filled me with a new sense of fear and a tremendous amount of guilt because so many people had planned on coming to those shows.
Yeah, so you could see there was a lot going on just before. I'm not sure how many of you remember that story about the terror plot in Vienna. That was literally a month or so before she was coming to Toronto. And the one thing I'll say about Taylor Swift is she made it very, very clear that she's very, very concerned about the safety of her fans. She recognizes that, her concerts draw a lot of younger people, parents. It's like parents with kids kind of demographic sort of thing. So she's really, really concerned about safety above all else of her fans, really. And with that, and with the situation there in Vienna, canceling concert shows, we hadn't realized how close we came to it, but quite frankly, Toronto was on the chopping block with respect to her team basically saying, you know what, we've been to many cities, we made a ton of money, I think it's time we just shut this thing down, maybe cancel the last few shows in Toronto and Vancouver kind of thing. It really was literally on the concert block, on the chopping block, I should say, and it was entirely up to us to see to it that we made this a success, particularly with respect to our planning. And so that brings me to the next piece, talking about the planning around this event. So first off, just in terms of the timeline, we started this, believe it or not, the concerts took place in November. We started back in January of that year. And it started with ourselves and transportation services and economic development, getting together, meeting with the local councillor, getting the conversation going about what we're doing. And halfway along the line, eventually it got to the point where Toronto Emergency Management, Joanna Bevins and her team basically took the reins, and they basically were the top of the pyramid. Because if you think about it, these types of major events, it starts with Toronto Emergency Management, and then we as transportation are really kind of like a subset of a much larger team of traffic and incident management around all this stuff. And again, we're a very big player because the two things go very much hand in hand. And whoops, here we are. And then obviously the fifth week, 5 weeks on, I should say, that's when we got special operations involved with Toronto Police, intelligence agents, both at the provincial and federal level were involved. It's kind of interesting because they actually had their screen where they were monitoring the online chatter to kind of see what are people saying. What are people talking about? Is there some sort of potential threat or protest or something that they're going to try and take advantage of the event to do something? And lots of them. Every single tile and box on here basically represents all the parties that were involved in our stakeholder consultations and our working groups around Taylor Swift. It basically engaged pretty much every division and agency within the city in this whole coordination effort. It was a massive effort. Now, the area that this is taking place, you guys are all familiar, but let me re-familiarize you with. The Rogers Centre is right smack in the middle of a major event zone, if you think about it. You've got the CN Tower, you've got the Metro Toronto Convention Centre, you got Scotiabank, like all these major trip generator sites all in and around the same place. And yeah, Taylor Swift's not the only thing. As you can see from this lengthy list here, I'm not going to read through all these different points, but there were a lot of other events taking place right smack at the same time as a Taylor Swift concert. So people coming and going with Raptors games, with Maple Leaf games, with sort of the overlap between the two seasons kicking off. And then you've also got, a famous comedian. Sorry, I don't recognize that guy. But there was a lot of stuff going on during that time period that we had to manage and navigate around. Then the other thing to think about is construction. And City of Toronto being very heavily congested, one of the exacerbating factors to that being construction. We're still hands down the busiest city in all North America when it comes to construction. The last thing we want is to have Taylor Swift come to town and every single road in that area is blocked because of construction. So we basically implemented a no-fly zone over that whole area that we've boxed off, saying that from November 11th to November 24th, no construction is allowed in this area. I don't care who you are. We, as Barbara mentioned, I manage Rescue, the traffic operations center, where 24/7, we're there able to remotely change the lights. But in order to do that, you need to see what's going on. So with our camera presence, we currently have about 300 cameras in the city of Toronto, but we actually added a whole bunch of new cameras specifically in that area to make sure our operators had that ability to see what's going on and change the lights accordingly if they had to, particularly the first part of our planning exercise is really kind of establishing a bit of a perimeter. And so you can see in the middle here, the pink box there is basically sort of a secure area perimeter, whereby every single access in that was covered by Toronto Police with the intent that unless you have a ticket, you're not getting into that space. People selling merchandise on the street. There's a huge amount of pedestrian traffic in and around the area. And so we had to secure that area in red to make sure there was no traffic. It's like a pedestrian-free, pedestrian-only zone, effectively, right? And in the surrounding area, you can see, I've kind of highlighted there, in fact, the next slide again to a little bit more detail on this, the pickup and drop-up zones. Again, lessons learned from other jurisdictions. Arizona, this was a nightmare because the rideshare was just kind of all over the place. Well, we specifically designated certain roads, closed certain roads to make it easy access for rideshare. And we reached out to, Uber and Lyft and all these companies, and we basically had them block off on the system. And I'm sure some of you may have seen that if you use Uber. I'm here and I try to book an Uber and it's like, it will not let me book in this area. And I have to go to the designated area and then, now you can get a car. kind of idea. So we had that in effect as well too, to basically make sure that we manage pickup and drop off in a safe and efficient manner where streets were open and cars could just fluidly make their way in and out. And then from a traffic control perspective, I manage the traffic agents. We now have, thanks to the mayor, 100 traffic agents, and we're soon to have 127 by the summer of next year. These are and take over start operating type thing. We've seen a lot of benefits with those. So we had traffic agents. We also had traffic control personnel. Traffic control personnel are kind of like one tier below. It's like those guys you see at a construction site where they sort of stop traffic for a minute to let vehicles out. That was invaluable when it came to the parking garages. Particularly imagine the university and front parking garage where you have a massive congo of cars that want to get out. We use the same construction traffic control personnel people to stand there and marshal people out, clear traffic, and then let them free and go type thing. So we had a lot with respect to that. Certainly, it was critical for us to be looking at things from a multimodal perspective, working with making sure they had beefed up service on those nights. Partners with this in terms of the Eris ambassador support that they provided. The bike share, that basically beefed up bike share locations within the city. We basically did everything we could to beef up every possible mode for people getting to the event. So you're not just locked into just the one option of taking the car there, depending on where you're coming from. So let's talk a little bit about for this, because we had a very, very comprehensive program on that. But rather than me talking about it, let's say what mainstream media had to say.
Can you feel it?
I can feel it.
Yep. Anticipation is building here in Toronto for the upcoming string of Taylor Swift shows.
Everyone needs to just calm down a little bit. CP24's Courtney Hills, though, is live at the Rogers Centre this morning, where the city is really rolling out the red carpet and even renaming some streets, Courtney.
Yeah, they are. I don't think anybody will be coming down in anticipation of this concert. I mean, everybody's talking about the Eras Tour arriving in Toronto. Less than 2 weeks to go now, guys, and you'll see behind me they're starting to work on the signs. Now, we obviously can't see them just yet. At 8 o'clock, they'll officially rip off the...
I love this video because that's John Papa there, the manager of signs and markings. And that's Milt. Everybody loves Milt.
City Council made this decision back in the summer in July. It's really a way to honor the Eras Tour. The fact that Taylor Swift is coming to our city, these concerts completely sold out. There's a huge economic impact. We're hearing from Destination Toronto something around $282 million. This is big money when it comes to the cash that fans will be spending on hotels, on restaurants, on staying in our city for a couple of days. So there is just a lot of buildup going into this. And again, what you can see on the ground where I am, they're just starting to put the signs up. They're not actually going to show us Taylor Swift Way until about 8 o'clock this morning. That's when Mayor Olivia Chow will be here. We know Deputy Mayor Ozma Malik and Deputy Mayor Jennifer McKelvey also here, and I'm sure they'll also be speaking about all of the excitement and anticipation. So that's coming up in less than a half an hour from now. And the actual route, Jen, it's basically from Nathan Phillips Square to Rogers Centre, where the Eras Tour will be as of next weekend. So you can expect to see the signage, and of course you can expect to see the hundreds of thousands of fans who will be here over the course of those 6 shows. Over to you.
Yeah, get ready.
So she made a really good point there about the economic significance of Taylor Swift coming to Toronto. And you question why it is we put so much energy and resources into this. It's not just that you cannot fail, it's the economic benefit of all those Taylor Swift fans descending on Toronto, I should say, hotels, restaurants, the whole 9 yards. So now for the big reveal. Oh, wait a minute, did I miss it? Oh, it already came up. The big reveal, this is the Taylor Swift sign. So we basically temporarily renamed the roads in around the area to the Taylor Swift Way and put these signs up. But this is just sort of emblematic of a much bigger wayfinding strategy that literally from Union Station all the way to the Rogers Stadium and in and around the neighborhood, there were signs for pedestrians telling you, guiding you, directly where to go. And quite frankly, these are the things that kind of add to it's not just the safety of the area, but it's also the perceived safety. And, parents show up with their young kids and they're going to the Taylor Swift concert and there's signs guiding them. A lot of parents who are like from Oshawa or Hamilton or wherever, not necessarily from the Toronto core area, they're not as familiar with the area, things like that just kind of give them that sense of calm that, okay, I'm in a safe area. And also the fact that the streets being closed Bremner Avenue being a pedestrian road, basically, no cars. And so you come up from Union Station, there's all these signs wayfinding you, and you walk straight into the stadium without any sort of traffic lights or cars or anything else to contend with all these young families. So very much a big deal. And again, going back on the sort of support about making people feel safe, secure, having that positive guidance, the TTC did a phenomenal job with the Eris ambassadors. They had, I think it was like over 100 of these people at Union Station who were all there. Literally, it was like, look for anybody coming off the train who's wearing sparklers, and just sort of guiding them and saying, if you're not wearing sparklers, you must be going to the Maple Leafs game. Otherwise, Taylor Swift this way. And so those Eris ambassadors did a phenomenal job of welcoming people into the city and guiding them from Union Station directly to where the concert was going. And again, it all adds to not just in creating a safer environment, creating a better environment for traffic management, but making people feel safe and feel that things are kind of under control. So now, I'm going to talk about the meeting. And so here's the thing. We had the opportunity to meet with Taylor Swift's management team. Sorry. With Taylor Swift, we met with her management team. That being said, we met with this guy. In fact, when Mr. Allen came into the room, well, let me give you the whole story. These guys literally flew into Toronto, hopped on a cargo line of limousines, came all the way down into the Rogers Centre. They came off. They took over half the room. We were the other half of the room of Toronto Police, Emergency Services, Fire, myself, like just a whole army of city agencies in the room. These guys took over half the room with all her security team, her management detail, everybody. And this gentleman here, Mr. Allen, came in, and you knew you were in the presence of somebody famous or powerful or something, because he just sort of immediately, like everyone kind of made space for him to take the head of the table, and he sort of plopped himself down, and literally he sat down with this almost like sort of closed body demeanor and said, okay, what have you got for me? That was it. And then go, and it was go time. And literally each and every division and agency in the city started sounding off. And so, I'm Roger Brown, Director of Traffic Management. We're doing this. We've got this cover. We're doing these traffic lights. We've got traffic agents there. I'm Jim Jessup. I'm the Chief of Fire, and I'm doing da-da-da-da-da-da. I'm Chief Myron Demkew, and da-da-da. I'm doing this, and just literally firing line around the room of everybody telling them how prepared and how ready we are for Taylor Swift. Basically, we're ready for it, kind of thing. And it was so interesting because at the end of the round robin of conversation around the room, Mr. Allen kind of stopped, and his body posture changed dramatically from kind of like, all right, what do you guys got for me? To like, literally you could see he was really impressed. And then when everyone's done, he turned to Mario. Mario is the Vice President of Operations for Blue Jays. He basically runs the Rogers Centre. So he turns to Mario and says, I guess we got a show. Let's do it. Okay. And then they all got up. They grabbed some drinks and snacks. They hopped in their limousine ride, and they were out of there. And afterwards, when I was talking to Mario from Rogers Centre, he was saying, you don't know how close we came. Robin was coming in apparently to say, guys, this just, nah, she's done. We've done all these tours. We hit so many different cities. There's a terrorist thing in Vienna. It's not like she needs the money. She's done. And again, he was really, really concerned too, because of when you do comparisons, and he told them offline that of all the cities they've been to, the city of Toronto is the most prepared city they have ever been to in the world. And the one comment that Mr. Allen made was, he said, not a comment he made, but rather, Mayor from Rogers Centre had a comment saying, you gotta remember, in the US, local agencies so the police consists of like 2 police officers for the whole area and stuff. So you can imagine as Taylor Swift's crew is going to all these cities, very low, if you know what I mean. But for him to make that comment after the European cities, that you would actually think, well, they're way ahead of us, they're light years ahead of us, right? Nope. Relative to even the European cities, they said hands down, this was the best they've seen in the world. And quite frankly, again, I don't want to overly take credit, but even Mario from Rogers said that he believes after his side conversation with Mr. Allen, that quite frankly, Vancouver was off the table too. And by virtue of us being so prepared, it basically put us back on the map, kind of thing. Oh, they can't hear online?
Yeah. I'm trying to.
Oh, is that better? Can they hear me now? You guys do the thumbs up or something? Can you hear me now? Oh. Yeah, maybe it's because I'm using the microphone that it may be going in and out.
I think yeah, your device is connecting and disconnecting to different microphones. That's why.
Oh, maybe is it because I'm getting too close to that one? Maybe. Yeah. All right. I'll sort of keep my distance. Okay. All right. Is that better now? Maybe if I just stick to the one microphone.
Yes.
Okay. Great. Thanks. Thanks for everybody online. Yeah. So as you can see here, oh, I think I lost control. Switch back in. Yeah. If you move to the next slide. There we are. Yeah. So as mentioned, this is, in fact, that's a photograph from in the room there in the war room over at Rogers Centre. You can get a feel for all the officials sitting around the table. And again, this is just sort of showing each of the different agencies that was there. So let's talk about Taylor Swift versus Toronto traffic. And again, you know, it's this whole thing of like, oh, geez, you know, is it going to be congested? Is she going to have to walk to the event? All that sort of stuff. So let's hear what the city has to say about this.
So last year, Beyonce came to Toronto and that caused some gridlock, some traffic issues immediately following the show. What did the city learn from that experience and how is it going to be different this time?
Thanks for the question. So in addition to, we are pretty agile and we try to learn from every experience in terms of, especially working with the Rogers Centre. We have a very close relationship with them. We share resources in terms of our traffic management centers and being able to really move on the fly. So part of it is having enough resources, sort of boots on the ground. We have our traffic agents, we'll have traffic control personnel, and then also understanding the timing.
Oh, you notice the Taylor Swift bracelets on my boss, her wrist?
Sufficient time to manage around that. We've also learned from a number of other cities, including Miami and Seattle and a number of others who were really helpful in early planning stages of sort of giving us an update on the flow of these events and what we can expect that was unusual or different from many other large events that they've managed. And then as we go through the concerts, you can be assured that this team, in addition to be able to pivot on the fly, will also be doing after actions so that we can get a little bit better each day.
So again, that's Barbara Gray, the General Manager of Transportation Services.
4 o'clock, doors open for Taylor Swift
Hang on,
at 4:30.
let me pause this for a minute.
That's about how long it's going to take me to get downtown by transit.
I want to pause for a minute and go back there for a sec. So that's Barbara Gray, the General Manager of Transportation Services. She recently retired like just a few weeks ago. So I just want to put that plug in. That was my boss's boss, but anyhow, in a nutshell, sorely missed. And but at the same extent, interestingly enough, just a shameless plug. I believe on Thursday, ITE has their Christmas luncheon. Both Barbara's going to be presenting and myself. So I'm going to get a chance to get reunited with her after having not seen her for a while. So going back though, Barbara talked about the traffic management plan that we put together there. She described it pretty accurately. So now the interesting thing is, how did we do? CBC ran a very interesting story where they basically did a comparison of different modes trying to get to the concert to see if they could get us in a bit of a gotcha moment. So let me start back the video and have a look.
Okay, so it's almost 4 o'clock. Doors open for Taylor Swift at 4:30. That's about how long it's going to take me to get downtown by transit. We're also taking a car. That's supposed to take about 25 minutes. And we're taking a bike. And that should take about 17 to 18 minutes. Let's see how long it takes to get to the venue. Hey Siri, can you play Taylor Swift?
So we're now biking south on Bay Street. I will say there's definitely an energy the closer we get to the venue.
I guess the real question now is, will I be able to find parking?
Will she find
We're
parking?
going to have to walk it from here. So just to recap.
See the yellow bars, those are hostile vehicle mitigation there, eh?
The Eras Tour.
All part of the design.
Line up into the venue, stretches all the way from front and Simcoe. That's wild. So the rendezvous point is by the inflatable Eras sign on the side of the Rogers Centre.
talking about the wayfinding
Parking
signs.
is not an issue either. There's plenty of places to park, and I'm just gonna take this spot right here.
Okay, we're walking through to the Rogers Center. Let's see how long it takes. Here's Brian. He's made it. He found you.
Okay, so we made it. We all got here in the time that it said on maps. Yep. So it's fairly easy. Got here in 30 minutes exactly.
Took me 20 minutes to drive, 5 minutes to park, 10 minutes to walk.
18 minutes to bike, 4 minutes to find a place to lock up my bike, and here we are.
All right, but just remember there are lots of crowds here, so be prepared.
Yeah, the interesting thing there is that of all the modes they kind of tested, they didn't do the one that was most prevalent. We did a very, very heavy marketing campaign specifically targeted towards ticket holders, saying, take hybrid trips into the city. So if you live in Oshawa, drive to your GO, hop on the rail, and zip into the city. If you live in Hamilton, drive your car, 5-minute drive over to the local GO, rail your way into the city. We were able to use data, TELUS data and Bell data, Cellular Probe data, to get real-time multimodal data and origin destination from those external postal codes into the area around the Taylor Swift concert. We saw 72% of all the detections came via hybrid trip, as in people driving to rail and then railing their way into the city. Like, it just goes to show that as a possible way, you know, and a strategy that we have in the congestion management plan overall, which is to try to promote as much as you can that when it comes to special events, because then it starts bleeding on people's minds. You know, I live in Oshawa and I did it for the game, but hang on a second, I have a meeting in Toronto. I know that if I take the hybrid trip, it's going to be a reliable, guaranteed I'm getting in a certain time, whereas if I drive, not so much, right? And so again, this is where this whole thing of the hybrid trip and from a travel demand analysis point of view is something that we're really, really baking into our plans going forward. So next up is, what about, so don't just take CBC's word for it. This is now even Toronto Star making the comment of how well we did in terms of, it was either the city's months of planning or the facts lined up to get in as early as 5 a.m. or both. But it didn't seem Thursday that ticket holders showing up at the last minute at 6:30 needed to worry about traffic. Yeah. And when do you hear the media ever taking any kind of positive tone when it comes to congestion and traffic? Yeah, I personally, having been involved, I think it's the city's months of planning, quite frankly, that did it. But whatever they want to take or say. And Taylor Swift, clearly, as you can see from this video, she wasn't exactly walking to the stadium either. This really, really draw the ire of both ourselves of the city and MTO, because her team didn't quite mention this little detail of the fact that they were basically going to do like their own rolling closure around her cavalcade. So this is like them coming down 427, coming across the Gardiner, going into the stadium type thing, right? And and by the way, I forgot to mention one little adage from when we had the meeting. When we sort of broke from the meeting with Taylor Swift's team and we're sort of having more free conversation or asking questions, I asked the question saying, hey, by the way, guys, where exactly is Taylor Swift staying? And whoa, her security detail hunkered. Oh, why is this guy asking that question? And then I'm like, I'm the director of traffic management. I have the authority to close the road where she's coming in. Well, in that case, she's staying at the beep. So, anyhow, it's not a secret now. She stayed at the Ritz-Carlton, which is very close and just kind of in and out. And that was all over media and stuff like that. A lot of famous people stay at Ritz-Carlton to get into their events. So not a shocker there, but now here's the fun part of my presentation. Want to talk a little bit about the show itself. So I had the ability to be at the Rogers Stadium, and no, I don't get a freebie. I don't get a chance to go in and watch the show. I did watch the show, by the way. In the command center at Rogers, there's a giant screen TV that you could actually see what was happening live. Again, more from a security point of view than actually, but so no, I didn't get a chance to see the actual show. But I will say this, it was loud, insanely loud. So the command center was up on the higher deck and kind of across. So there's the command center, there's the hallway, and then there's the I was going to say bucket seats, the balcony seats to the concert. So there's quite a bit of separation, but we could hear it so loud. Even when she was talking, we could hear right through the walls, and it must have been deafening in there. But that being said, I did a little bit of a comparison. You know, KISS, known to be one of the loudest bands on the earth, greater than 120 decibels they were once measured, which is enough to like your ears start to pain. You got Motorhead, if anyone knows Motorhead. Yeah, 130 decibels they were clocked at in one particular concert, which again is very much deafening. Like any doctor would be like, yeah, don't be in prolonged environments there. They didn't even talk about Taylor Swift in terms of dB. They reported a 2.3 magnitude earthquake in terms of, and quite frankly, there was one part of the concert where she took her headphones off and everybody screamed so loudly, it literally sounded as if a bomb had gone off in the stadium. It was insane how loud it was. The other piece too was, you know, with respect to the wayfinding and signage, another example here of the QR codes that we had all around. The signs that we had on the way, you could see that the labels of the Taylor Swift signs and the wayfinding. This is a screenshot of from before the concert started. Yeah, we had a chance to look at the room before the concert started. Yeah, not a big deal. We did have some famous people show up to the concert. When I went into, so there's 3 different command centers. When I went into the main command center, the FBI was there. And I'm like, what the heck? And they were introducing me to these FBI guys. I'm trying to figure out why, because apparently that night, Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton were there in the audience. So there was a whole FBI detail that was there in the command center and apparently around them. And then there's a whole Trudeau thing. I'm not sure if I could tell you the whole story there, but it was kind of interesting. He and his daughter showed up, and I don't think that was necessarily fully kind of announced. But anyhow, that's a whole, I won't get into that whole story, but it's kind of interesting the fact that he was there. Then, as I mentioned, we had multiple command centers that were set up. There's so this is a screenshot from the command center where I was. This is the one at the Rogers Center. So again, in this room, you could hear the concert clear as day. You can see the Jumbotron TV. There's that one there. Actually, to be honest, it's the one over you can't see over here on this wall that you can actually see the concert. There's the hallway over here, and then there's the balcony seats to Taylor Swift. So we're kind of far away from the actual arena, but you could hear the concert clear as day in this room. And you could already see there's Chief Jessup there. There's Joanna Bevins. He's the head of Toronto Emergency Management. You know, a lot of there's Mario, my good friend Mario. He basically runs the Rogers Center for all intents and purposes. Then this is the Toronto Emergency Management Center that was set up in full swing. So this is at 703 Don Mills, where my office is. Then there's the Toronto Police MIC, the Management Incident Center as well too, that was likewise fired up. So we had multiple event centers fired up all that night. So just some really quick crazy stories. Number one, there was a lady who was very pregnant at the Taylor Swift concert, and she refused to leave even though her water broke and everything, and they had ambulances coming. She's like, I am not leaving this concert. And, you know, she kind of lucked out because she paid for one ticket and basically was able to have 2 people attending. And I'm sure, given how loud it was, that her baby heard everything in that concert. And then there was also a fake police officer. And I caught this as well too. So a gentleman was decked out in police uniform and was trying to see if he could sneak his way in. And again, this is lessons learned, but essentially what wound up happening was it was all from divisional police. So everybody that was there in the security perimeter knew each other. So when you see somebody that's not your friend, it was an immediate, wait, who's that guy? And then they started approaching him saying, hey, sorry, excuse me, you know, you're with our division, or which division are you with? And then he broke into a run. And then we started using the cameras in coordination with the police. And the last thing I saw was he started going over to the Roundhouse Park, where just out of sight of the cameras, you know, 2 of our police officers basically lunged on him and saw them kind of pulling him up in handcuffs. And we were like, whoa. Yeah, apparently he was a fan, just thought that maybe this is a way to get in for free with everybody else. But okay, so just wrapping up, lessons learned and on to FIFA. So number one key lesson learned was the hot washes. Or in other words, the concert would end, and at 2 or 3 a.m. in the morning, we would have an emergency meeting with everybody to go over what worked and what didn't work. And that constant fine-tuning, feedback, all that sort of stuff, fantastic. And the strong communication, and obviously it helped identify gaps that by the last concert, we basically perfected it in terms of people in and out. Here I'm going to highlight some key things. The special event parameter zone, you're going to definitely see that with FIFA. Drop-off and pickup zones, very successful. We're planning that for FIFA. Beefing up transit service is an absolute must with dedicated runs in and out of the stadium. Promoting work from home on those game days. If there's any outcome of the pandemic that you could say is even remotely positive, is the fact that you can actually talk to the downtown BIAs and say, on game days, have your staff work from home. No one should be in the downtown core unless you're going to watch a game. Promoting, and then having the detailed wayfinding strategy as well, having a huge benefit and impact. So yeah, that's my presentation. And yeah, there's the whole team with the mayor as well. Thank you.